Cutting out complex shapes can be, well, complex, can be difficult. There's a couple of simple things that we can do. So let's start with this image here. So we have an image here, this woman, and she has just a lot of hair basically, and if you've got a project where you need to cut out this hair from the background, that's going to be really difficult. The lasso tool isn't really going to help you here. I've seen some people try to rub out this kind of hair with an eraser, and like, you're never going to do that, especially if you need to get rid of the pink. It's craziness. Don't try and do it. It's way too much work. But there is a couple things that we can do. So we're going to take this image. I've already got the sort of finished example here to show you. So we've just got a background here, and we're going to put it on a background. So let's turn this layer on here, and if we go up to select and then select and mask, right, this new window will open for you. So we want to go into view and select onion skin up here and bring this transparency down to about 50-50 so we can see the image. So we go all the way down to 0. You can see that's your one image and that's your other image. So if we bring it down to 50-50, we can see both images. We want to click on this button here, which is the quick selection tool, and you want the plus section to be selected, and you can change the size of the brush with the slider or with the brackets. We'll just make that a little bigger, and if we click, hold and drag, it's going to start selecting all the sections that we want. It's made a very quick selection of the woman and all her hair. So it looks pretty decent, but if we go down to 0 here, oops, no. If we go to, black and white, we can see that it's not really selected. It's not really done a particularly good job of selecting all these little strands and things like that. So what we want to do is, if we go to Smart Radius here and increase the radius, bring this all the way up, and then if we go back to black and white, we can see this much better selection, much more complex, much more sort of nuanced selection there. So if I sort of undo and redo there, you can see the differences. So it's quite a big difference really between this sort of just one block shape to this much more complicated pattern shape here. So we'll go back to onion skin, and what you can do then is, let's say we can see here there's not quite selected some of the hair here, and it's probably still got some of the pink background in it as well. So if we head over to this tool here, which is the Refine Edges tool, and we start brushing in to here, it removes parts of the background and adds in some of the hair back in, so we can really have a really delicate selection of all these tiny sort of strands of hair, whilst at the same time removing any parts that we don't want. So we'll do that. We'll go up the side of the hair there, and up at the top here as well. This does take a bit of processing power for your machine. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but that's my that's the PC's fan going off. So it does take a little bit of processing power, so be a little bit patient with it. It might take a bit of time for you. So if we go back to black and white here, we can see we really have a really good selection, even all these tiny wisps of hair here. So we've really got a good selection there now. So there's a couple of other things you can do here. So with the, so I'll go on to this black and white because it's easier. We can see with the contrast, if we up the contrast, is really contrasting the black and white there. So that's not really what we want for this, but just so you know, it's there. Feathering as well is quite useful. It blurs the edges basically. It will start to select parts of the background as well if you do that. But it can be quite useful, especially if you've got wisps that aren't quite selected properly, but you just want to just give the impression of the hair and just feather it out just a little bit. And so I'm pretty happy with that selection, so I'm going to leave that. And then to go back to the other window, you've got a whole output selections here. So you can either make a layer mask on the original layer, make it a new layer, a new document, or a new document with a layer mask. I'm just going to go new layer with layer mask here and click OK. So now we have our new image here. So if we turn that off, we can see that's done a pretty good job of selecting all of it. Obviously it's not going to be perfect. These things are never going to be perfect really. If there's parts that you feel you've missed, you can still work into the layer mask here. If you're unsure how to use these, this is a clipping mask, so you might want to head back to that video if you're still unsure on how those work. But yeah, give this a go, see what you think.